All right, hello and welcome to the video. My name is Wade Daniel Smith, and in this video, I'm going to be discussing Isshinryu belt levels and what the belts from white belt through black belt are approximately able to do in real street self defense situations. Okay, and so I'm not gonna break down every single belt, but every couple belts I'll discuss because and plus there's a little bit of play here because different people's natural abilities vary by a belt rank or two. So understand this topic is a little bit fuzzy, like how am I, who was at first Q and never even got my black belt because I had to quit. How was I beating not only beating second degree black belts, but beating them in handicap matches? Because I was really fighting at about fourth degree black belt level. And my problem was I sucked at learning kata. All right. Is the biggest problem. And the other problem is you're required to spend at least 1 year at every belt rank, no matter how good a fighter you are, up until first degree black belt. And then it comes 2 years at every belt rank. And then after that, it's 5 years at every belt rank, no matter how good you already are, which is, I think, wrong. But I didn't make up the requirements. All right. So anyway, white belt is taught all of your basic hand and foot techniques, hand and leg techniques, and also they teach five swords counterattack combination from American Kenpo Karate and the Sword of Destruction counterattack combo and a few other counterattack combos. But pretty much white belt is not introduced to submissions. So it's submissions class. The white belts are at the beginning of submissions class. The white belts are usually sent home early. All right. But yellow belts are taught submissions. So yellow belts are taught the front wrist lock, the full wrist lock, the reverse wrist lock, the double cross arm wrist lock, Becky Lynch disarmer before Becky Lynch was even born, the cross arm breaker, the full arm bar, and the reverse arm bar, and the rear naked choke. All right, that's the first 8 submissions, if I remember right, that I was ever taught. All right, so that's the first 8 submissions that are taught to yellow belts. And then certainly by the time you're orange belt in the dojos that I trained in, you start learning Sanchin Kata, because testing Sanchin Kata is how you earn a blue belt. And Sanchin Kata basically teaches you proper breathing mechanics, proper body tension mechanics, psyching yourself out to ignore pain, and good stance, and that sort of thing. Let's see. All right, so then once you get your blue belt and you learn Seisan Kata for the blue belt part of the blue belt test to get a light green belt, but by then you've learned just scores and scores of additional submissions. All right, through the submissions class, and it just depends on what your instructor is teaching, as well as the Seisan Bunkai. And then at light green belt, you learn say Unshin Kata and the Bunkai of it. And by then you've learned, because it takes a bare minimum of 90 days to get the next belt, you've learned scores and scores of additional submissions. So basically, by the time you're a light green belt, you probably already know at least 50 to 60 submissions. And, the Bunkai of the first 3 katas. Which actually they teach you the 7th degree black belt kata at orange belt. And they teach you the original black belt kata at blue belt. And the black belt kata that they use now is Grandmaster Tatsuo Shimobuku's own kata. Is the one they use for the black belt test now. All right. But anyway, so we know from real world experience in gang rape scenarios that women who are blue to light green belts can defend themselves against 2 adult male attackers in gang rape situations because we've had them successfully do it. All right. So somewhere in the blue to light green belt range, a woman that has been training in Isshinryu Karate 3 nights a week in the dojo can defend herself successfully against 2 or more male attackers in a gang rape scenario. And we know this because it's happened multiple times. All right. And the women successfully defend themselves. All right. So that gives you an idea of the fighting ability by the time you're blue to light green belt. A light green belt man can beat two white belts in a handicap match. Put it that way. Okay. I know this from experience. All right. Then after light green belt is dark green belt, which you learn Naihanchi Kata, which is probably the oldest existing kata in all of martial arts. It originates somewhere in China, actually. We're not exactly sure when. And Naihanchi Kata is really good and really has a lot of deep bunkai and fighting ability in it. And also, in this time, you learn at least a couple dozen more submissions. And you can just say that for every belt rank in Isshinryu Karate, because Isshinryu comes from half Shorin-ryu, half Goju-ryu, and Shorin-ryu is basically small circle jiu-jitsu. All right, is what most of Shorin-ryu really is. So then purple belt. By the time a woman is a purple belt, her palm heel strike should be strong enough to break a man's nose. All right. That's literally been stated to me and to other people. By the time a woman is a purple belt, her palm heel strike is supposed to one shot break a grown man's nose. Is what she's expected to be able to do. All right. And you know, a man who comes to class every single day and who does 200 to 300 push-ups per day is supposed to be able to kill or maim somebody by palm healing them in the nose. That's not a myth. That has been tested in real military science. All right. That's also been tested with ballistics dummies. All right. So don't tell me that that's a myth. It's not a myth. It was literally told to me that a purple belt man is supposed to be able to kill a man in one hit with a palm heel strike. All right. By the time you're brown belt level 1, you're supposed to be able to consistently beat green and purple belts in sparring, certainly. And I believe you learn Wansu Kata when you're a brown belt level 1, or maybe it's purple belt. It's been years, so it's a little fuzzy. It's been 24 years since I was in full-time training, so that's a little fuzzy on me exactly when each kata is taught. Because I also forgot to mention Tokumini no Kun and Keanu Sai, which are taught at purple belt, green belt, and purple belt respectively. So the Bo kata and the Sai kata are taught in there, and then a belt level or 2 later, you're taught the Tuifa kata as well. So then you got Wansu and you got Shinto are taught to you, and then Kuzanku is taught to you. And after all of that, I was working on Suinsu for the black belt test. All right. And all of the bunkai of all of those. And since you're spending a year at each belt starting after purple belt, all right, you are learning dozens and dozens of submissions at each belt rank to get promoted to the next belt rank. And that's how the progression goes. All right. So I don't actually know exactly how many submissions I have banging around in my head because, you know, I could be driving down the road and all of a sudden something I haven't seen in 25 years will come back to my memory. And I'm like, who taught me that? Oh, yeah, that was Sensei Mark. Or, oh, that was actually Andre Pierre back in 1993. All right. I just remembered that for the first time in that long. And I can still do that. Okay. Yeah. Who taught me that one? I can remember another one. And I can just do it just because I remember it there. All right. So, you know, there are so many of them that I don't know the names of them. There's just hundreds of them. And so if I fought in the UFC and did not beat their top 10 fighters, I would be disappointed in myself. I would be absolutely disappointed in myself.